is it?
And oop. Is that vegan thing on Netflix?
Yeah.
Can we watch it here and snuggle in bed with the kids?
With the kids?
Yes.
I mean...
Just like at Newhall.
Is Luna gonna be into it?
Yes. Maybe. And oop.
Ready? Ready to bring it?
Yeah.
And then you say, it's already been brought.
And oop.
So, darling daughter Luna Marie felt under the weather this week. Sick, ill. And she got over it. And this happened at school. Mm-hmm. And she was at school the next day. But so she felt ill at school. And then they asked her the symptoms. And what did she reply?
She said that her stomach hurt. She felt kind of nauseous. Mm-hmm. So they whisked her into the nurse's office.
Yeah.
And they called me at work. It was early in the morning.
Yeah.
And they told me, we can give her a COVID test right now, right here.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, I said, well, I have to come pick her up because she had to come home. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll bring her home, and then we have the at-home ones. We'll just do one at home. Mm-hmm. And oop.
So she felt nausea, and essentially that's a symptom of COVID. So the school has to scramble, and oh my God, everyone's going to die. And so you had to go grab her. And then we did one of those orange COVID tests that everyone in America sent away for. And
right.
Joe Biden mailed them out himself to all of us. And she was negative.
Yeah.
I took that test. I was negative. Lennox took it.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's... first of all, they're from China, okay? Second of all, I don't think anyone is administering them properly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because you're supposed to stick the swab like 3/4 of an inch up your nose.
Yeah, and that hurts and that's uncomfortable, and no one's doing it, okay?
At least when I did you and Luna's. And Luna's done it twice now, actually.
Oh.
You both were fine. You just do it. You don't flinch. Oh my gosh, Lennox.
Yeah.
He did not want that thing up his nose. He was squirming. We had to try multiple times before I finally got it up there. Yeah. And I don't know if I had it up there for long enough. But yeah, nobody's doing it correctly.
Right.
Either that, or they don't work, or none of us have COVID.
Right. I think all three are happening. But then then you told Luna what?
Well, yeah. She said, why do I have to do a COVID test? I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I feel better. And I was like, yeah, if you say you have any of the symptoms, they're very rigid about their procedure.
Right.
So I said, next time, just say, oh, my tooth hurts.
Right.
Or I'm on my period.
I need a mental health day. I have vertigo. I'm afraid of heights, which she is. We walked over the I Street Bridge here, or Capitol Bridge, and she was spiraling.
Yeah, bridges freak her out.
But yeah, we were like, well, I don't know if we told her to lie, but we said maybe skirt the truth.
Stop and think, evaluate your symptoms and how you're feeling, and then think, do I really feel that bad?
Yeah. What's
really going on?
Yeah. And because by dinner, she was like, oh, I feel better. And like we said, she was at school the next day. So, yeah. And the whole craze to get tested and the crazed reaction to COVID is pure, well, in my opinion, overreaction. And sometimes people you feel a little funky. All hell doesn't need to break loose. We don't need to shut down the entire school student body, and you don't need to get these silly rapid tests, which are probably all fake and malfunctioning. But yeah.
It's interesting because now the school has lifted the mask mandate.
Right.
So masks are optional.
Right.
Indoor and outdoor, but they're
Yeah.
still following this procedure for if people don't feel good or have any symptoms or feel sick at all.
Yeah.
And oop.
So there's a Netflix series called Worst Roommate Ever, and it's 4 episodes long, but each episode is a different case of. It's called Worst Roommate Ever, but it's about people who lived with people who killed people. First episode is about Dorothea Puente, which we watched because she's a Sacramento. She's a hometown favorite, if you will. And for people who don't know, Dorothea Puente, I'm reading this from Wikipedia, was an American convicted serial killer. In the 1980s, Puente ran a boarding house in Sacramento, California, and murdered various elderly and mentally disabled boarders before cashing their Social Security checks. Her total count reached 9 murders with 6 unconfirmed. And her thing was that she buried them in her front yard or backyard. In her backyard. And the house that she did it in, I think it's 14th and F, downtown Sacramento, which is a couple miles from where we live. But we watched it, one episode on her. Did you know about this case growing up, honey, or?
Not growing up. It was more like I remember first hearing about it within probably the last 10 years. Like I was an adult when I learned about it. I was 4 or 5 when it actually was happening.
Yeah.
But the name is familiar to me, and it rung a bell, but I didn't know any of the details about it. Yeah,
and she's infamous in the Sacramento area, and she got some national notoriety back in the day. So a couple thoughts I had watching this was one. Well, the thing about her was like she wasn't a serial killer. Like she wasn't walking down the street and then decided to murder someone, or she wasn't obsessively stalking people, following someone around, and would pounce on them in a moment of that she could get to them. She set up sort of a halfway house where homeless people down on their luck, would come in, and she would have a couple of them in her house at the time. And she would take care of them, like give them a room to stay, feed them, but also give them cocktails with pills, some sort of deadly poisoning. Yeah. And it was slowly. I don't know if it was like over a couple of days they would die or over a couple of weeks. And then they'd have friends, family who would try to follow up, and she'd be like, "Oh, they took off to Mexico. Things happen." But so one thing, my first question was, she's an old lady. She's a crazy old lady. And she looks like your typical average grandma. How did she bury these bodies in the yard? Yeah. Was she digging? She wasn't strong enough to dig.
The documentary never addressed this because they would die in the house. Yeah. She would kill them in the house. Yeah. How could this lady take them out to the backyard? And even if she was a younger woman, how could she take, and dead bodies are heavy, right? Yeah. It's like heavier than alive bodies or something. Yeah. So how could she get them out in the backyard? How could she dig a hole deep enough? Yeah.
It's not like 3-inch hole. You gotta.
She had to have had an accomplice.
Yeah, or a couple, like hiring like a couple dudes, buff dudes, just saying, dig a 8-foot hole in my backyard, and then here's $600. All right, see you later.
No, that wasn't brought up at all.
But then she would have to like cover them up. Yeah. What happened there?
I want to know.
Need to know more. And then another thing was that I never knew this. Well, first of all, I only knew of her when I first moved to Sacramento. I went on Yelp, which was an active conversation page, like the Yelp Sacramento back in the day. And so people would go on there like me, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, I'm moving to Sacramento." The typical, it's everywhere on Facebook and Reddit. Where should I move? And then you get 8,000 replies. and you don't go through all 8,000. But anyways, so I was like, oh, what's up with Midtown? And then someone replied, well, you want to stay away from 14th and F because that's where Dorothea Puente killed those people. And I was like, well, that was a long time ago. Okay, but yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Sacramento tour guide person. One thing I didn't know was that way back in the day, she was a hooker. Like, she was a freaking prostitute, dude.
She's been a criminal since a very young age.
Yeah, lots of fraud and financial shenanigans throughout her entire life.
Poisoning people has always been her favorite go-to.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that she was a whore, a literal whore, I thought was
was she also like a madam? Or am I misremembering that?
Yeah, she went from whore and then she graduated.
Worked her way up.
She broke through that whore glass ceiling. I don't know. And yeah, she she became the Heidi Fleiss of Sacramento, if you will. Actually, well, I think her hooker time was down in Southern California. And then another thing was that, like I said, the house is super close to where we live, a couple miles away in downtown Sacramento. We're in West Sacramento. Her house still exists. It's still there. Like it's like an old school Victorian home. The structure is still there and everything. And I think at this point it's a historical landmark, right? On some level.
The cop in the documentary said that's why. He said usually homes that have this type of thing happen, they get completely destroyed and they rebuild.
Right.
Which I don't think is necessary, but okay, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But because this one is a protected landmark, not a landmark. Anyway, because it was built in, I think he said 1890.
Yeah.
So they were prohibited from tearing it down.
Yeah. So my question is, because we were in it, Luna was watching it with us.
Yeah, she loves crime.
Yeah, she loves true crime a little too much sometimes. But would it be in bad taste if we went over there?
Oh no, we're gonna.
And like took a picture in front, like a selfie.
Hey guys,
we out here.
I bet people do that. I wonder.
You think that's not in bad taste? It's been enough time.
Sure.
If we set up like my tripod and do it and we do a serious one. Okay, now do a goofy pose.
Like a full-on photo shoot.
Everyone say Dorothea.
What if we all wore like big glasses and headscarves and dressed up like her?
Yeah, like all the props, all the photo shoot. Oh yeah. Everyone say Dorothea was a whore. But I definitely want to go look at the house. Although it looks like just a normal house
right
now. Golden State Killer, another infamous Sacramento area murderer. I lived my place in Citrus Heights was a couple miles from his home, and we drove by there.
You lived there when it was all discovered and in the news. Yeah. So you and I drove to the house to look at it.
We looked at it.
And then I think we wanted to get out and take a picture, but we chickened out at the last minute.
Yeah, we flirted with the idea of taking a selfie in front of the GSK killer house, but we had better judgment.
We're like, what are we, some losers taking a picture in front of this house?
Well, yeah, and I mean, his house. Well, Dorothea is like classically modern. Well, not modern, but modern Victorian for 18 whatever. But his house was hecka ugly. It was like brown and puke yellow.
It was like built in the 70s.
Yeah, needs to be raised and maybe flipped on some HGTV show or something, redesigned.
I bet whoever bought Dorothea's house completely redid it. Oh, I hope they did, because it was like, it looked really old in the pictures they showed, and there's like body fluids from her killing people.
Yeah, under the floor, right?
Oh my! It was probably disgusting in there.
That's right. That was so disgusting. Like the cop or whatever was describing the smell, and he was like, "What the hell is this?"
I hope they gutted it and completely redid it.
Well, that's another question. Never mind her superhuman strength, but what's going on there now? Is there someone living there, or is it like for rent? Room, like, Is it an apartment for rent or?
Yeah, a lot of those Victorians downtown are divided up into like 4 quarters and they're rented out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go by and see.
And then is it priced more? Is it priced less? Because they have to disclose that, and
right.
I mean, it's pretty infamous. Everyone knows the location, so yeah, so many questions. We need a part 2.
And oop.
So you recently got jury duty, and we just started. You've done jury duty.
Yeah, I love jury duty.
You don't throw your notice in the trash?
Of course not.
Neither do I.
No one does that, honey.
That's wrong. That would be bad. Your current case, the kids found boring. But then we started talking about a previous case that you served on. And talk about the point that we were... Give us a summary or whatever.
This was about 6 years ago, so forgive my memory.
Yeah.
But essentially, a woman was being convicted of drunk driving. Mm-hmm. So, like, the state was prosecuting her. Yeah. And it was a very interesting drunk driving case because there's no actual proof that she was behind the wheel.
Right.
Because the cops showed up on the scene. Yeah. And she was already out of the car. Yeah. But she was drunk. Yeah. And the car she had just arrived in they could tell it had just been turned off because, you can kind of hear when a car, it makes noises.
Kicking.
And you can put your hand on the hood and it's warm.
Yes. That's what fascinated me.
That was part of the evidence and the testimony. Yeah. So, very interesting thing I learned in that case is you can be charged with drunk driving even if the cops don't see you in the car or behind the wheel. Yeah. If they can prove you were drunk and that you did, drive this car, and yes, you were drunk when you were in that car. So it was a very interesting thing. They had a ton of people came to the witness stand. Yeah. One person was like a doctor or like an expert on blood alcohol levels and she showed us all these graphs, and if you drink this much at this time, this is how much will be in your system and over this period of time. She was on the stand for a long time.
But how did they prove she was drunk?
We found her guilty.
Okay, but they didn't make her take the breathalyzer. So she was at one location and then she got to another location and she was allegedly under the influence. Drunk.
Yeah, they proved she was drunk.
Okay, so
they're at the scene.
They did the blood or breath or urine. Yeah, and so they proved she was drunk. Yes, but the driving part
we had to her lawyer was saying she was drunk, but she wasn't drunk when she had been driving. Wow. And then the cop, and then the state or whoever was prosecuting had to convince us or prove that yes, because she was this drunk at the time the cops actually were interacting with her. Yeah. And then yes, she had been drunk at the time she had arrived in that car.
What? Okay. What if someone? Because this makes zero sense to me. It seems very circumstantial. What if someone else drove her car with her in the passenger seat? Did she admit to driving?
Yes.
Oh, well, screw that. Oh, that throws my... Never mind these idiot lawyers. What about me? But
well, I have to say the law... No, it didn't sit right with me. Mm-hmm. But because the law itself, I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like the law itself, but I wasn't... We, the jury, weren't arguing with the law. That's not what you do. Right. You can't argue that.
Maybe you should. This whole law's out of order.
You just have to decide whether or not the person is guilty of breaking that law.
Yeah. Well, okay, so, see, cops putting their hands on a warm engine and then saying, all right, you were, this proves you were DUI. See, so what if you, because people drink and then they drive and they make it home. Mm-hmm. Or they make it to whatever, their friend's apartment. They make it to a bed somewhere. And then can you go back and say, "Oh, you were drunk driving"? It doesn't feel right. Like
I know.
there needs to be more there. There isn't enough there.
And I don't know a lot about it, or I've forgotten in the years that have passed.
Yeah.
So I don't know like exactly how that works.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else happened that night of the incident
Mm-hmm.
that had to do with her getting arrested and everything that happened, because it was a big fight that went down, and a bunch of madness happened that night at the home, at the place where this happened. It was very interesting though. We heard tons of audio from the police body cams, and there was it was like a week and a half. Yeah, it was kind of a long trial. There was so much evidence and expert witnesses and this and that. Yeah,
it seems BS because I would have brought up. Okay, she admitted it. Well, put that aside. But my client went out to the car because to listen to a freaking Cheech and Chong cassette tape or something, and she sat in the car and she had a smoke, and that's why the car was hot. And she was drinking in her kitchen, in a kitchen. She went outside and started her car for shits and giggles. Who knows? But the fact that you can put your hands on an engine and be like, oh, you drove.
Yeah. I wish I could remember better the specifics. There were some people there on the scene who, their testimony of what went down that night was also used. Yeah. And they were kind of saying, yes, she did this. This is what happened. Yeah. So there were some eyewitnesses that night.
Yeah. Or my client started the engine, decided better again to not drive. It's not concrete. It's so far from like 1 or 0, yes or no, A or B. No. There can be a lot of gray area. Then we start talking about something else. But then I was like, well, okay, if there's video of me in a bathroom in a nightclub snorting cocaine and they have the security camera up there, could I be charged with snorting cocaine?
I don't know.
Well, I think I would say no, because what I'd be like, well, sir, my client, first of all, look at that hair. His wife cuts it. Is he handsome or what? He was snorting flour. FLOUR. Or he was kidding, or he didn't know it, or it wasn't cocaine. It was a medicine, so even video can be deceiving. Or I don't think there's enough. Like, if there was video of me knocking over an old lady who just got $100 from the ATM, and I knock her down and I take the money, that is a very tangible crime, and someone is injured, and it's very A to B of what happened. It's a direct line. But like me doing cocaine in a bathroom, it doesn't seem like anything. And I think it's very similar to putting your hands on an engine and saying, oh, you were drunk driving, so you were DUI. There's video of you snorting something. It's probably cocaine. But I don't think either should stand up in court. And I say this knowing almost nothing about the legal process.
It was shocking to me to learn. I learned a lot during that trial.
Yeah.
It was very surprising.
Yeah.
And yeah, eye-opening.
And oop. And oop.
Alrighty. Well, are we done, honey?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that's the end of the program. It's been fun, but not really. Let's all try a little harder next time. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, review, and rate. Or don't. Do whatever you want. You're a grown-up. Make your own decisions. Do what's best for your family. Please be sure to use our promo code for Solo Stove. We don't have a promo code for Solo Stove. Goodbye, my podcast friends. I love you. My wife and I love you. We hope you have a good day today and tomorrow. And sure, we may end up taking a family picture in front of a noted former serial killer's home, but we're still good people, and I'm still a good person. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day/night. Bye-bye.
And oop.
We got chicken.
Is that crispy, juicy tender?